What's up guys, Prof Smoke here. Today I'm going to sculpt with Crayola Model Magic and we're going to see how it holds up against the products that I normally like to use to sculpt. Thank you BirdBots for suggesting using this product. I decided it'd be a cool idea for a video, so let's get right into it. First thing I wanted to sculpt is a caterpillar. I decided to do a Skinner's blend, which is just a way of mixing two colors together into a cane. And this works really well for the pattern on top of caterpillars, which is what we're sculpting. I really love caterpillars. I love any animal that can transform into something else. Amphibians are awesome. Caterpillars are awesome. It's always interesting to see what a butterfly will look like when you only have seen the caterpillar. I used the rest of the Skinner's blend cane to just make a platform. It's kind of marbled, and we're just going to test how strong this clay is when it dries with that. For this next one, I'm doing a bully from Super Mario 64. This is from the level Lethal Lava Land. The bully is one of the standout coolest enemies from the game. It's a lot like a Babam, but just a little snazzier. Eventually, I'll sculpt some proper bullies and an ice bully as well. There's also Mr. Freezy or something like that from Mario DS, or Mr. Chili. I'm going to sculpt him as well too, so be on the lookout for those sculptures. Wahoo! As I talked about, I really like amphibians, so I was going to sculpt a nice salamander with this one, kind of a salamander dragon. But somewhere along the way it turned into a little bit more of a snake or serpent style dragon. Really wanted to try out doing the small details of the toes and the fingers, because in a lot of clays, when you try to sculpt toes and fingers, you'll have problems, you know, they'll get dry and fall off, things like that. But this turned out pretty good. It didn't hold a lot of the detail though in the fingertips there. For this last sculpture, I'm just using the rest of the clay that we had to work with. My thought process at first was that I was gonna make some like lion with blue and red like hair on the mane that kind of interchanges, but somewhere along the way it turned into like a weird monkey Mario, like a mashup of a bunch of different Nintendo characters while also looking just really weird. It even has one of those French hats, a beret, is that? Yeah, a beret. And a backpack inspired by Pokemon Emerald. Now I just go through once they've dried and add eyes to everything. This is also a great way to test how glue, marker, and paint will work on the surface of the Model Magic, because those are all important things in a clay. It's always good to try as many different techniques as you can with the clay that you're working with, especially in a situation like this, where I'm just trying to see the capabilities that the product has. I'm really happy with how those eyes turned out. It's like, geez, first try? I had initially made, using the white Model Magic, I made eyes, but when I tried to get them off of the ruler, they actually broke in half. So something thin like that with the Model Magic just isn't going to hold up either, which is important to note. Just using a little bit of white acrylic paint folk art brand to do the eyes, and we're going to put some white dots all over these yellow spots and just anywhere I think a white dot could go. I think adding the white dots is helpful because it just helps to separate those, like those yellow circles don't look very natural, so it makes them look a little better. And we did a little marker action and some white paint on top of the marker for the eyes on these last two sculptures. I think they turned out really good, and I especially like how the face turned out on the little pet snake that our monkey boy has. Such a weird character, but it's pretty cute. What's up, guys? So now that we've sculpted with all the model magic in this box, I'm gonna go over kind of my thoughts on the clay. We're gonna start with the cons. While I was sculpting with it, whenever I tried to make small details, like for example, I tried to do a bushel of grapes by just sticking little balls of the clay together, or I tried to do the toes on this lizard. Whenever I tried to do small details like that, the sponginess of the material kind of made it expand outwards. After I would make those details, the clay would kind of just like undo those details as it expanded outwards, because it is so spongy. You squish it in, it expands outwards slowly over time. So that didn't make for the best small details. And also when I tried to put texture into the top of this caterpillar, the texture really just didn't take well. You can see some lines on the top of it, but with the regular stuff that I would use, those details would be extremely predominant in the sculpture, versus with this, those details, you know, pretty much have expanded out, which really sucks in my opinion, because I like to do a lot of texture stuff. With that said, although it doesn't take texture super well, the pattern of my fingerprints is virtually all over all of these sculptures, so it does take like fingerprints really well, which also isn't ideal for sculpting. The material is very spongy when you're working with it. Other than spongy, I really can't explain, but it's a little bit wet. When you pull it apart, it just doesn't pull apart consistently. It pulls back, you know, so if you pulled it and set it down, it would kind of retract back a little bit. And if you pull it, it rips. It doesn't like pull apart, it just like tears, like a sponge, I guess. Really, the sponginess is the best way I can describe it. It just didn't feel right in my hands. One of the techniques that I really like to use in a lot of my clay sculptures, it's super helpful, is rolling out a snake of clay that's like a smooth, consistent coil of clay, you know, just a straight line of clay that's the same width all the way through. When I tried to do that with this, it just didn't work. Parts of it were being much thicker than other parts, and it wasn't durable. Even if I could roll out a good thin piece of it, it was just so thin and so like it just didn't work. So pretty much it didn't feel right in my hand. That's what I'm getting at here. Also, another thing was on this one, I tried to do it where its head was kind of leaning up just a little bit, and it lacks the ability to hold itself up virtually at all. For this one, I had to do so much to even hold up this head. I literally had a giant ball, and I just squished the head onto it so that it would be able to hold itself up, you know. So it's not very strong. It is lightweight, which is a good thing, but that makes it so that it can't hold itself up well, which kind of sucks as well for a lot of sculptures. Another point is I did a Skinner's blend for this caterpillar. There was a really cool YouTube video that I saw where they do a similar thing. So I thought, well, I don't work with colored clay much, why not use a technique of someone who does? And so I tried it, and my execution probably wasn't perfect, but it didn't blend very well, in my opinion. The clay does blend. Okay, if I were to blend two colors together and just keep blending it, it would become one color. But the blending just wasn't great, especially in regards to attaching like a body part. Like if you look at this, which is in my opinion, this one turned out as the best one. The horn is pretty much about to peel away from this black clay, this yellow horn. There's a bit of space there, and pretty much if it blended better, then when I pushed it on, I could have blended it into itself. You can see the same thing with the little horns and the wings on top of this. They're obviously a separate part from the rest of the sculpture, and when you're sculpting a body part onto a creature, the body parts don't seem like they're just stuck on. They flow into the skin, they flow into that body part, etc. So yeah, the blending was virtually non-existent in my opinion. Like trying to blend these eyebrows into the face, they just stuck. And stuff does stick really well. That's another pro of this clay. Stuff sticks really well. Only problem is once it's stuck, you really can't blend it super well. Another thing is that it gets dirty really easily. For example, after I sculpted with the black clay, anything I touched these yellow horns, and you can see at the bottom of the yellow horns, fingerprints of black. And that's going to be a problem with any clay. But this clay specifically is very, very, very sticky, which makes me think that stuff's gonna stick to it really easily, so it'll get dirty easily, and you really can't get that out of your sculpture once it's in there and hardened. Now we'll talk about the cons while it was drying and after it dried. The first thing is that it takes a long time to dry. I think that I had to let this go 4 days before it was actually completely dry. It dries inconsistently as well. If you look at the bottom of this one, it's dry all on the sides, but then since it was sitting bottom down, the whole bottom is still there's still moisture in there, and it's still very, very flexible, right? Not dry at all, honestly. So because of the inconsistent drying, you get a lot of cracks all along the edge. It's wetter in the middle here, so all along the edges where it dried and the dryness meets the wetness, it cracks. And you'll see this in the bottom of every single one of these sculptures. There's cracks all in them. And yeah, another thing is while it's drying, whatever it's stuck to, like the surface that it's sitting on, it's pretty much gonna stick to it so bad that a lot of the bottoms of these feet tore off. The bottom of this one actually came off really smoothly, but some of the bottoms of these sculptures actually just kind of like, I had to like rip it away. I used a ruler and like spatula'd it off of the surface that I had it on. And maybe something like glue or something like this nice hard rock material would be better to have put it on, but it really doesn't seem like it should be that much of a problem that I had it on my normal plastic table or on a wooden surface where it would stick that bad that I have to literally tear it away from that surface. So other than the cracking and that, the sculptures are fairly fragile too. For example, I had this flat piece that I made. It's just a platform, and it got a crack in it. And so I wanted to test the flexibility, so I literally went just, a tiny bit, and the crack expanded through the whole thing. It snapped right in half. So we're going to use this to actually test how fragile it is. So it bends quite a bit there, honestly, but it's just not like it's not that great, you know. It has that easy snapping point. I can just tear it like it's paper, you know, just like it's paper. So it's really pretty fragile. If I were gonna make a large sculpture out of this material, then I'd be very, very worried about it surviving a year. And when I make a sculpture, I like to think that they would make it 10 years, 20 years into the future without any problems arising. And anything after that, it's like, you know, there's really no way to predict that far ahead in the future what's going to happen. So other than those points, there's also the price of this. So this is 7 ounces, and this is a more expensive pack. It has multiple colors, but at 7 ounces for this, I think it sells for around $15. I got it on sale, so I got it for less, probably more around $1 per ounce, but this was about $2 per ounce if it wasn't on sale. So we're gonna say that this is somewhere around $1.50 per ounce. I know that the bigger containers you can save a bit of money, and that's about $1 per ounce. But comparing that to some other prices that I have written down here, a Super Sculpey, for example, the clay I like to use is $1 per ounce, and that's a much higher quality, although it is heavier. So if we take a look at Sculpey Ultralight, which is a similar clay, usually probably made, it's usually used for things like jewelry and stuff like that where you want it to be light. You can use that for anything, and it's a high quality clay. That's about $1.50 per ounce, right? Which is about the same price as this if we median out. Other options you have are Primo clay. That's a colored Sculpey clay. Since this clay is colored, that's also $1.50 per ounce. Sculpey air dry clay is only 33 cents per ounce. This is an air dry clay, although the Sculpey stuff isn't colored. You can still see that the other options are about the same price, if not less. Then we have cosplay, which is great for cosplaying. It's also probably not as lightweight as this, but it's great for cosplay stuff. It's lightweight. It takes to sculpting really well. That's $1 per ounce. So this being $1 to $2 per ounce, it's about the prices of these other clays, but it's just not a similar quality. So I hate to say it, but the Crayola Model Magic maybe isn't worth the money. The pros I have for it, though, are that it's lightweight, which would be great for making some sort of costumes, making props. If you only need one color and you want to paint on it, right, which is another pro of this, you could easily make, you know, the blade of a sword or something and just use a bunch of that stuff. It would probably turn out really cool, you know. And I have been told you can sand it. I haven't tried that myself, but paint and marker does take well to it. As you can see, the eyes on all of these, the black is marker and the white is paint. Actually, this one has white paint, and then this one has glue on it, so the glue does take to it well. And even if I'm picking at these, you know, they're on there fairly well. So it does have those things going for it. It's great for basic shapes, something like this bully from Mario 64. Any of the bully enemies, anything that's made virtually out of just like circles and large cylinders, that would be great for this type of clay. You know, those are great projects. It's also, you know, easier for kids to use. A little kid can't use an oven. A little kid isn't gonna have the dexterity to do a lot of the techniques that someone like me, who is an adult and who has been, you know, putting a lot in sculpting for a bit of time, would be able to pull off. So it's colored, it's easy to use, it's fun for kids to use. Those are all great. Those are all great points, you know. It's more of a toy, I would say, than a material that I would want to use in what I would consider a professional grade sculpture. And I'm not saying that by any means I'm the best sculptor or that I'm even at a professional level, but I am saying that I don't find this as an acceptable material for anything that I would make seriously as a commission. There are some great pros to this as a fun product to use, right? To just have a fun time and, oh, I want to try out clay. But I would say that this is the equivalent to one of those cheap, colorful clay packs of polymer clay, like the cheap polymer clay of a bunch of different colors, and then you sculpt with it, and when you put it in the oven it cracks and it can't hold itself up, and all these problems start happening with it, where, you know, I wouldn't consider that of a grade that I would use in any of my sculptures. Beyond, you know, just a video like this where we're seeing how far we can take it in a day. So yeah, those are my final thoughts. I'm gonna say out of 10, I'll give the Crayola Model Magic a 4 out of 10. I would use it, you know, just for fun, but compared to the products that I normally use, it falls a bit short, and it is Crayola, so what do we expect? Alright, thanks for watching, have a great day.